So it was shock for the United States because United States didn't take Soviet Union serious. Before the launch, it was publication in the newspapers that Soviet Union planning to launch the satellite. Was no dates because Soviet Union they didn't like to give exact dates to avoid information about possible failure. And then in the radio magazine, they publish even frequencies of the transmitters, of the radio transmitters, also pay attention to this. So for Americans, it was shock. Now we are behind the Soviet Union. They can attack us. It was the same feel like after 9/11 or around the possible nuclear attack from the North Korea or I don't know from Iran, all this fear around nothing. But of course, it was psychological shock that booster in this country the research development. I wouldn't say that it was the real space race at any time, because Soviet Union was ahead of United States not because they raced in space, but because it was so many publications in the American press about one plan, another plan, how United States would attack Soviet Union, how many cities they will bomb, how many million they will kill, that the Soviet Unions were really focused on the possibility to prevent this attack. That meant the ability to have the retaliation. Soviet situation was very similar to Iranian situation now. The outside people thinking, would we attack them or not, or maybe we'll attack now or not later. So they just energizes opposite side to do something to prevent this. So when we had this ICBM that can retaliate in the possible American attack, that mean prevent American attack, we enjoy this possibility to be ahead of United States in this space. But when the President Kennedy announced that he would race to the moon, my father, he didn't think that he wanted to join. He told he's spending his money. I'm responsible for our money, and we have many more important things that we have to do for our people. It is agriculture, housing, consumer goods. Let them spend this money. So after 1964, the Korolev and other people, they pressed the government and my father just to give them funding. But in reality, this race started only when my father was ousted of power in 1964. I don't think that it is the space race now in any aspects, because each country pursue their own interests in space and they doing what they want to do. And when we look in this race to the moon, it was only politically and psychologically motivated. We have to prove that we still can do it, because delivery of some rocks from the moon and using for these 3 men, it was not really not very reasonable, because, for example, Soviets delivered the same rocks from the moon using automatic space station much cheaper. And so if somebody will try to race now and talking about the base on the moon or traveling to the bringing people to the Mars, you have to think why you're doing this, for what reason. If you're sending the rover can work there months after months, sending pictures, making the analysis. If you're sending men for the moon, they need oxygen, they need food. So you're sending them some machine that transforming precious resources in the waste. And then you can spend, I don't know, 2 days, 10 days on the Mars and then travel back. And I don't think that it will be some significant results. So this research is research for something new that is very important. Sometimes we have these discoveries, sometimes not. For example, Soviet Union launched manned space station, then United States race with Soviet Union, now we have International Space Station. What is positive results of all this investing in the space station? It's space tourism, I think, nothing more. The Sputnik is the discovery, the same as discovery of the America by Christopher Columbus. He discovered something that really he's not looking for, because he looked for India, not for the United States. The same at that time when we launched the satellite, there was no real idea, not in Soviet Union, not in the United States, about possible application, communication. It was only the science fiction writer Isaac Asimov. He wrote in one of his novels about possibility to use the satellite for the communication, but still it looked like a more fiction than science. So the idea was that we make some research, we look what is really there in the space, what does mean no gravity, what is the sun looks like from the outside, and all others. The discussion about possible practical application, I think they came later. Not much later, maybe in 1958, 59, it was real. They began to talk first in the United States, then in the Soviet Union about reconnaissance. First it was the military application. We have now photograph because the CIA, they want to know everything about the Soviet Union, the same as KGB about United States. And just at that time, they worked on the U-2 flight, and they thought that one thing, it is the plane, and if it will be satellite, it will be even more, how to say, more interesting. So beginning to talking about possible application. I don't believe in any prognosis more than you can really foresee. Maybe 10, 15 years. In 50 years, it will be different technologies and maybe different discoveries. And maybe at that time it will be possible to use different type of engines, different type of the energy that you really can send the man to space, because until it's not renewable energies and can use to accelerate the spacecraft, man is too expensive on such spaceship. It will be very different. Maybe we can travel the same as we're watching on the TV. But I prefer not to make mistakes forecasting anything, because I read so many forecasts that they did in the previous decade that I know all of them will be wrong.